Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video here we have created one of the role generate page, that is role generate view page, and also I make it as a clean, and now that will be actually look like this, right? So here friend, I want to load one of the JavaScript. That means if you select as a date, if you select as a class, and after that when you click as a search, you can see that is actually one of the ID, that is one of the ID only. So when you click on here, automatically one of the JavaScript file will be loaded. That means with using the JavaScript, I want to load one of the table. Okay, then that will be very much interactive. And here I want to add one of the role field, and from here you can update this role, right? So for doing this, that is actually our position as I told you. So that is our form. So before this form, that is our role generate table. So after that search here, I want to add one of the tables. So if you want to add it, better I want to take one of the dev first, and into the dev area I take one of the class. How much easily we'll do that work, I show you. Like I name it as a row and d and then none. Okay, so d none means actually that is one of the class. When you actually use that as a d none, that will be not visible at the first time. Okay, that means that will be not visible on here. So that is one of the default class. So when you use that d none, then this total dev not will be visible. Okay, when you actually get this data, then it should be loaded this table on here. Okay, so here I want to add this type of one of the condition when we get some of the data with the response JSON, and then when you get any data, then I will make it as a remove. That means the d none will be as a remove, then automatically our this total dev will be visible, right? So this type of one of the condition I want to apply. So for the reasons, there is a class, I name it as a row and then d none, and after that I put one of the ID, and I just name that ID, it will be as a role generate. Okay, that will be as a role generate. So this type of one of the ID I simply take, and after that I take another one, I take another dev and I put that dev as a class, that will be as a call md12. I take as a call and then md and then 12. Okay, that will be as a call md12, and into the call md12 I take one of the table, that will be our table, and this table actually will be loaded. Okay, I put on the class for this table, and here before I have already create this type of class. If you go to the view, I want to actually copy this class, then actually it will be better for our this theme that have also one of the class, right? So you can see that is actually our class as a table border, table script. So now I copy this class, and that will be our class. Okay, I name it the same, and also I want to make it as a I put one of the style, and then I make it a wide will be as a 100%. Okay, that will be as a 100%. Perfect. And after that we need our t head. That means the t head, and that is our t head, and then into the t head area I take one of the tr, that will be as a tr, and then into the tr area I want to take one of the td or th, that means the table head first. Okay, our table head will be as a id number. Okay, better I name it as a id number. Okay, our table head will be id number, and also multiple things I want to add. Okay, I want to add that a table ID number, and then that will be one of the student name that will be needed. I want to visible as a father name, student father name. Okay, father name, and then also I want to display the gender. Okay, so right now I am actually taking this all that field data, rather than you can also take multiple as per your demand. And also most important, our role. Okay, I want to also get that role. So that's all. That will be our table head, right friend? So that is our table head, and that is our tr. Okay, perfect. And after that tr, that is our t head, and after that t head I want to take another as a t body. I think you already know about that format. That will be as a t and then body. So that will be our t body. Into the t body area I want to load all that our data with one of the using JavaScript. As I told you, for the reasons here I take one of the another ID, and I name it as a role generate, and then tr. Okay, so role generate tr. So this type of one of the name I want to take. And after that, that will be our dev, that is a dev, last dev, and after that is actually I want to do Before this form, I want to take also one of the button. Okay, I want to take another button for the role generator button. So I want to add one of the input field. Input type will be as a submit, and then our name will be, I name that, I don't need this name, I better add that as a value. Our value will be as a role. Okay, role generator, the role generator. So this type of one of the value will be visible, and then also I want to take on the class that will be as a btn info. Okay, I have already used that one of the primary, so now I am using as a info. So right now, friend, you can, here I have already created one of the div, and that is our table, right? So now it should be visible, but here I have already used one of the row, one of the class as a dnone. So now if you click as a save all, so now this table not should be visible, and now if you click as a refresh, yes, you can see, friend, our table is not visible, and after the table I added one of the button as a role generator, right? So you can see after the dev, whatever the things right now in our this dev area, so that is totally our dnone portion, and with the dnone portion now it not should be visible. You can see it's not visible. Only after that I have added one of the input field, one of the button as a submit button, and I put that name as a role generator. So now this role generator is loaded. Perfect. I hope it's very much clear to you. So now I want to do, when you select any year, when you select any classes, after that search, automatically our this data will be loaded. That means here that will be our total dev. So this dev will be loaded with here I have to remove this dnone, and then automatically that will be loaded, right? And here that is our all the th, that is our all the th data, and this data, that means all that our this body data, I want to get it by using one of the JavaScript. Okay, so it will be loaded in particular that area. For the reasons here I have already added another id as a role generate here. Okay, and that will be our main dev as a role generate. So with this role generate, I want to remove this one, that when it will be get any data with the response JSON, then it will be done. I show you, like if you now remove it, now click as a save all, and now if you refresh it, now you can see now our table is now loaded. Okay, friend, I hope it's very much clear to you. So right now it's okay with me. I make it as a dnone, click as a save all. Now that will be not loaded. Okay, so now it's totally gone. So from here now we have to get all that our student data. That means if you select as a year, if you select as a class, and after that search, that means it will be get all that our student data, right? So I want to do here, as I told you, it will be get all the data with the JSON formatted, and with the JSON formatted I get this data. I want to load this data here. Okay, so for the reasons after that, here I want to add one of the JavaScript. So friend, for saving that time, I have already write this code. If you go to your exercise file, I also shared this file with you. The JavaScript actually very much interactive. You can see there is actually a lot of the code. So if I code it, then it will take a lot of the time. So better I will explain you what exactly the things I did on here. So right now I copied. So that is our started role generator. I copied the total script. Okay, I copied this total script from to this position. Now I close it, and after that here there is a role generator. Here I paste it. Okay, so here I paste it. So when you use that JavaScript, make that sure you use that Ajax. You can see I didn't add it. Maybe I did. I add it in our user. If you go to that user, add user, profile, view user, edit. You can see edit profile. Here I have used that as a this one. That means our Ajax. But I copy it. And also for our role generator, here I'm using that in JavaScript. So for the reasons, make that sure you add it. Okay, so I add it in here, rather than you can also add it into the master. So right now it's okay with me. So here that is our script. So into the script, what I did, I explain you here. First of all, you can see I take as a JavaScript, and into the JavaScript that is our document, right? So our document will be as a on click, or which one? On click will be our search. So for the search, I have already take one of the ID. You can see I have already take one of the ID as a this search. Okay, that means when you click as a this search button, that means this search button, then that will be executed. Okay, So that is our search button, perfect. And then our functionality will be executed, and then I take one of the variable as a ERID. So in JavaScript, so if you have already little idea about the JavaScript, then I think you already know. Into the JavaScript, when you want to call any variable, you have to call it with the var. Okay, that means the variable I take it as a ERID, and ERID I pass that value as a ERID. So ERID I have already take both of these. You can say I take it with the hash, and that is a hash class ID. So that is ERID. If you go, so that is actually our two of this. You can see that is actually our name. So after that name, I also want to take another ID. So better after that I put one of the ID, and I name this ID that will be as a ERID. Okay, and here we don't need any selected function. Better I remove it. Only I want to load it. Okay, so I simply remove it. I hope it's very much clear to you. And also I want to add another one. So that will be for our class. Our classes also, we don't need that selected option. I have already discussed about that things with you, why I'm actually using it. So that will be as a simple. Okay, that is our value will be our class. With this class, that will be our class table ID, and that will be display our class name, right? And also for the class ID, I want to add another ID for this. So that will be our class ID. Okay friends, so that is our class ID, and there also there is another one as a ERID. So now I take both of these. So here I take both of these as with this variable. So that is our ERID. It should be get all that value data, and take the things with this variable. Also it should get that all that our class ID variable data, value data, and I take it with our another variable as a class ID, right? And then I started that Ajax, and with this Ajax, first of all, our route. So from where actually we get this data, because here we have to load all the data, right? For the reason that is our URL, one of the route, and that's the route as a student registration and get student. Whatever the name actually you choose, you can choose it. So with this route, I want to get this student all the data, right? Because here we have to display all that our student details. So if you want to get this data, so we have to get it by the JSON format. With the JSON format, I want to get this data. So I will do the things later, and the type will be as a get type. Okay, that means the get method, and data. Our data will be, it will be matched. That is one of the condition. Okay, when our ERID will be matched with our this ERID, that is our variable. This ERID means in our ER table ID, which will be matched with our this requested ID. Our class ID will be matched with our this requested class ID. When it will be matched, then it will be as a success function. And with the success function, that is our all the data will be our role generate. Okay, that means the role generate. I have already created one of the table. If you go, you can see into the table, I name it as a role generate. That means after that, that table will be executed. So that means whatever the data will be get, this data will be executed in our this ID area. Okay, that is our role generate ID. I hope it's very much clear to you, friend. And into the role generate, as I told you, when you get all that our data, then we need to display our table, right? That means we need to display our this total dev. So that is actually our total dev. So if you want to display this total dev, what exactly we have to do? We have to remove this dnone, right? So when you actually remove this dnone, automatically our total dev will be loaded, right friend? So for the reasons here, I take that part with our this ID as a role generate, and with this role generate, I want to remove this dnone. And you can see here, I just simply did that work. So that is a role generate, and you can see that is a remove class. Our remove class will be as a only dnone. Okay, that means when it will be removed, then automatically our total dev will be loaded. So that is our var HTML, that will be same. Then the each data, that is a function. I take all that our data and I pass it in here into the HTML format. I simply loaded all that our tr data. That means here I have already loaded this part. You can see that our HTML will be output as a role generate tr. So role generate tr means I have also, you can see that is our t body. So into the t body, I pass that ID, all the data, and take the things in our this role generate tr. So in particular this tr area, what exactly we did, we always use that as a tr, and after that I use that as a td, right? So right now here I don't want to use anything. Every data I want to get it from our JavaScript. Okay, so that is our role generate tr. So here I actually segment it. You can see there is a tr, the td, and with this td it will be first of all display as a student id number. And into the student ID number, that will be one of the input type, and that will be as a multiple students. So for the reasons, that is our name, value, everything actually just like our HTML format. Okay, but HTML format I'm using it into the JavaScript. And also after that v, so with this v here I have get all that our function. With this student I want to display that name. So better I want to actually first of all get this data, then everything, this part will be very easy to you for understand. Okay, so that is actually the main is simple one of the JavaScript. I hope every line is very much clear to you. So right now I want to create our this route. Okay, I create this route. Now go to our web route, and that will be one of the get, but I want to pass that all, get all the data with the return response JSON. I paste it. Okay friend, so now that will be our URL. Here our route will be as a student registration student. I copy it, so that will be our route, and I just name it as a student or register. Okay, register student registered, and then get name. I name it as a registration get name, because this type of one of the name I want to use. That will be our URL, right? And then in our student role controller, I want to create one of the method as a student role, or get student will be better. Okay, I use it as a get student. I name it as a get, and then student. Perfect. So that will be our route, and that will be a get method, that will be our URL, and that will be our method as a get students method. Right now we have to create this get student method in our student controller. Now go to our student controller. After this, okay, after this I name it as a public, and then function, and then our method will be as a get student. Perfect. So friend, now we have to get all the data from our different table. So how can do that work? Better I want to continue this process. I don't want to make this video so much long. So in our next video I will total complete portion, and here I get all the data, and then we will visible it in our view page, okay, with using that JavaScript. So how can do that work? In our next video I will show you that things with a live example. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.